Hello, how are you people doing? It's been a while, guys. Let me first be apologizing. Yeah, I know we were supposed to do this series a while back because we did part one of the diabetic series, and guys, I've been so busy. In fact, I just took my time off, lunch break, to do the part two of it. And for the new subscribers, for the newcomers, please remember to subscribe, comment, share, like, all those things. So karibuni sana. Let's start this thing. So guys, today we're going to talk about diabetic diet, and that is the part two of it. We're going to cover it in three parts. So today we're going to look at part of the diet, and why I'm saying part of the diet is because I want to cover part of the diet, which is the fruits part, on another series. So today we are just going to look at the diet part. Okay. So guys, we said on the part one that the management is basically on the basis on medication, diet, and exercise. Okay. And that is where we said on the medication part. For the diet, mostly revolves around type 2 diabetic, but for the medication, type 1 we manage it on insulin. This person has to depend on insulin. Okay guys, it is insulin dependent. So for the type 2, that is where the diet comes in. And when we talk about the diet, people used to say there's a specific diet for diabetes, but usually there's no specific diet for the diabetes, but we push on and we check on the carbohydrate foods and the glycemic index. And what do you mean by the glycemic index? Basically, when we talk about the glycemic index, we're talking about when you eat that food, how long does it take to raise the sugar levels? Does it spike them? Does it take a longer time, a shorter time? And for diabetic patients, usually it's supposed to take a longer time so that it does not spike your sugar levels. And it does not again overwork your pancreas. Okay. So basically, we advise on the complex carbohydrates. Remember, the carbohydrates are the culprits for raising the blood sugar level. So when you're talking about the diet, basically we need to check on the carbohydrates, okay? And we avoid the simple carbohydrates and dwell on the complex carbohydrates. And basically this means, in simpler terms, you take the ones that come direct from the shamba and not buying from the supermarket. For example, the rice. We have brown rice and white rice, and that's why mostly you hear that notion of diabetic people should take brown foods and not white foods. The white foods. Why do we say this? This is because the brown foods, they are not processed. They are high in fiber content, and hence the time they take to raise the sugar levels is a bit longer. They do not spike the sugars, but unlike the processed ones, and I gave an example, white rice and brown rice, they yield the same amount of the grams of carbohydrates they yield are the same, but we are checking on the amount of time they take to raise your blood sugar levels. Okay. So usidanganywe, don't be fooled that the amount of carbohydrates are smaller. No, a cup of white rice and a cup of brown rice, the amount of carbohydrates they yield is the same, but the time they take to raise your blood sugar levels, that is where the difference comes in. Okay. So take the foods that come direct from the shamba, the sweet potatoes, the arrowroots, all those ones, the brown ugali, the brown rice. Okay, they are very high in fiber content, and they're good. Okay. So a diabetic patient is supposed to take around 120 grams of carbohydrates a day. So when you visit your nutritionist, there's a list. You don't need to cram it. There's a list of foods and the carbohydrates the grams of carbohydrates they contain. So you're able to calculate together, and usually you have a diet plan for each patient, because as I always say, each patient has specific needs. So we're just talking a general thing, but you should visit your nutritionist so that you can get into deeper details, depending even on the other conditions that you might be having. Okay. Yeah, and then again, we have a list, they can give you a list of foods and their glycemic index. For the glycemic index, we consider below 55, that is the best. They have their low glycemic index food. That means they are very good for diabetic patients. Okay. Then we have the medium ones, which are 55 to 69. Then above 70, those are high glycemic index foods. That's where you find the chips. On the fruits, we have the watermelons, those ones. Okay. Yeah, so for things like akina brown rice, the ngwashis, the sweet potatoes, the arrowroots, those are low glycemic index foods. They have a glycemic index of 55 and below. Okay. Yeah, and again, when you're checking on these, don't worry, you don't need to cram it. Just keep in mind that the ones that come from the shamba are the best. Okay. Again, when you're doing this, remember to portion your foods. It doesn't mean because it comes from the shamba, then you should eat a whole amount of ugali. No. A feast size. Feast, I mean by this. And when I say a feast size, that means if it is a potato, and a potato is a very high glycemic index food. So if it is a potato, it should not be bigger than this. Meaning, in most cases, you'll find one potato is enough for you. And I'm sure most of you are asking, so if I eat one potato, I'm 2 slices of bread, because that is the amount you should eat for bread. So then, how am I going to be full? So remember, half of your plate should be vegetables. So, and vegetables fill you because they're high in fiber, so they make you full. So you're going to fill up on the vegetables. You also have proteins, and remember, proteins have carbohydrates too. In fact, I advise my patients, if you've been taking carbohydrates during the day, at night you don't have to include it in your diet. Remember, you're going to sleep. You do not need all that energy. Okay, so maybe in the morning you took ugali, you portioned the ugali, you maybe a piece of meat and spinach. Lunch you took the same. Then I advise during the supper meal, you can take the protein, maybe some beans and vegetables, half of the vegetables. Yeah, and that will be good enough because you do not need energy. You're going to sleep, you're going to rest. Okay, but you find people doing the opposite. You find that people tend to eat more during at night rather than, we are not morning people. So in the morning you'll find someone takes 2 slices of bread, but at night they'll take a whole portion of ugali and very little vegetables. It shouldn't be like that. Okay, yeah, so fill up on the rest, the protein, and the protein should be quarter your plate. Then fill up on the vegetables. Vegetables, make sure in every serving, and I mean every meal, maybe during lunch hour, supper, in the morning, you should include your vegetables. Okay, yes. And eat small, frequent meals. Every 4 hours, make sure you take something. Every 4 hours. And make sure you avoid the simple carbohydrates. What do I mean by simple? The cakes, the chips, the white rices, make sure you avoid them. The sweets, the cakes, all those ones. Okay? Yeah, so try the sodas. Your culprits. Okay? Yes, and your sugar intake should be avoided, or rather, avoid sugar intake. Okay, and sugar is sugar, even if it comes from honey, it is sugar. Okay, yeah, so avoid those ones. Okay, and make sure you also take enough water, and make sure to rest. Many people take this for granted, but you'll find someone, especially during this era of TikTok, we are culprits. We go live the whole night, or rather maybe up until 2 a.m. It is supposed to wake up by 4 a.m. So you sleep for 2 hours. Rest is good, guys, because that is when your organs, you know, your organs also need to, that is when they rebuild, regeneration of new cells. Okay, yeah, so you need to rest. Okay, and usually I see Eat 3 hours before bed. I'm laying down, and give a period, especially for diabetic patients, give a period of 12 hours in between, such that maybe you ate your supper at 6 p.m. and the next meal will be 6 a.m. Okay, yes. And make sure you take your medication as advised by your doctor and your nutritionist, so that you know, am I supposed to take medication how many minutes before meals. Remember, we are doing diet management to avoid things like complications that come with, especially high sugar levels, because the complication of hypoglycemia or low blood sugar usually is onset, and it's coma. But for high sugar levels, we find that you can have heart diseases, liver diseases, electrolyte imbalance, especially in males. That's why you find diabetic males, they become infunctional. Okay, yeah. So we're doing this to avoid these complications, and the very severe complications, because you can imagine you're managing diabetes at the same time you now start managing another condition like heart disease. So let's make sure we always ask our doctors, how many minutes before meals am I supposed to take this medication, or after, how many minutes or hours am I supposed to take. And make sure you do not, today you don't take medication at 9 a.m. Tomorrow you take medication at 12 p.m. It should be consistent, okay? Yes. So for the diet part, you get into deeper details depending on your needs. So we just looked at an overview. So you visit your nutritionist and your doctor, you sit down with the nutritionist, you come up with a meal plan depending on your needs, and so that they can plan your meals depending on the number of carbohydrates you should eat a day, proteins, and also the vitamins. Okay, yeah. So then we come to the exercise part. It is very important because it helps in circulation of blood. Okay, yeah. So at least, you see, for exercise you cannot tell an overweight person to start jumping. So you, depending on your needs, we advise depending on your needs. Okay, yeah. So for example, for an overweight person or an obese person, you can start with walking. And when we say walking, we don't say the sluggish walking, you say bliss walking. Okay, such that you can see sweats coming out. Okay, yeah, because most of us are adding, and especially the stomach weight, this weight over here, that is the weight that this mostly comes with these conditions. So usually we do your waist hip ratio, whereby we take your waist measurement and your hip measurement, and we calculate those risk factors. Okay, yeah. So make sure you exercise at least 30 minutes daily. If it is, you have a car and you're going to work, yeah, you can, okay, you can go back home, then you allocate time for maybe walking, maybe you can go to the gym for 30 minutes, do exercise according to your body needs. Okay, yeah. So make sure you do that. So medication, diet, and exercise, and you'll be good to go. Sawa guys. Yeah, so I think we're going to do a part 3 on the fruits, because they are also very very important when you're talking about diabetes. Okay, yes. And I hope you guys, from the part 1, you went and checked your sugar levels, so that you can be in the know and look out. Okay, so that we do not get to this stage. So thank you guys for watching. I need to rush back and see my patients. Remember to subscribe and like, comment, and share, and I'm sure to see you on the next one. Until then, bye bye.